While 30, 60, and even 120 frames per second video has long been the norm, why has cinema remained stubbornly fixed at 24 frames per second? As we know, the fundamental principle of video is the persistence of vision. It is generally accepted that once a sequence of images exceeds 16 frames per second, the human eye perceives it as fluid motion. This theory formed the core of the early film industry's choice of frame rate. During the rise of silent film in the early 20th century, studios typically shot at 16 to 18 frames per second to achieve continuous motion. The reason they didn't go higher wasn't due to technical limitations. The technology of the time was fully capable of shooting at 60 frames per second or more. The real issue was the storage medium, physical film stock. Unlike digital storage, where you can record and delete at will, every extra foot of film was expensive and irreversible. To keep costs down, shooting at the bare minimum of 16 frames per second was the most economical choice. However, to ensure a smoother viewing experience, theaters would often project the film at 22 to 26 frames per second, slightly faster than the rate at which it was filmed. This is why early silent movies often look sped up. Since most silent films back then were comedies, most notably Charlie Chaplin's early work, this accidental acceleration actually added a layer of slapstick humor, leading the industry to widely embrace the practice. However, as the 1920s approached, recording technology matured and sound films began to rise. The mainstream method for recording audio at the time was to use an optical modulator to engrave sound waves directly onto a soundtrack area on the film strip. During projection, this was demodulated to ensure the audio stayed in sync with the visuals. As mentioned earlier, film playback at the time was generally faster than the speed at which it was shot. While the human eye can easily tolerate a slightly sped up visual, the human ear is a different story. Even a slight increase in audio speed causes a jarring, noticeable change. Furthermore, given the technical limitations of the era, this accelerated playback caused significant distortion, resulting in a thin, tinny sound reminiscent of a village megaphone. The industry desperately needed to settle on a single number, a standard that ensured fluid motion, maintained high-fidelity audio sampling, and balanced the cost of film stock. Ideally, this number needed to be easily divisible by 2, 4, 6, and 8 to simplify the editing process. Finally, on the 15th of March 1932, 24 frames per second was officially established as the global standard for both shooting and projecting sound films. Today, the primary medium for cinema has long since shifted from physical film to digital storage. Theoretically, as long as you have enough disk space, you can shoot at any frame rate without incurring extra costs. Naturally, the higher the frame rate, the closer the image gets to reality. Has the film industry really never considered moving to higher frame rates? Actually, they have. The Hobbit and Avatar utilized 48 frames per second, while Gemini Man pushed the envelope all the way to 120 frames per second. High frame rate cinema eliminates a massive amount of motion blur, making movement look so fluid and natural that it feels like you're looking at a real-life scene. For a 3D spectacle like Avatar, high frame rates offers an unparalleled sense of immersion. Combined with 3D technology, it makes the audience feel as if they've truly stepped inside the movie's world. However, while high frame rates looks realistic, it places immense technical demands on the production team. The higher the frame rate, the heavier the computational load for post-production. Every shot requires significantly more processing power and high-end equipment. Furthermore, changing the frame rate alters the exposure time, meaning lighting designers face a much tougher challenge when setting up a scene. Even if a director chooses to shoot in high frame rates, there's a final hurdle. Most movie theaters simply don't have the hardware to support it. It doesn't matter if you shoot at 48 frames, 120 frames, or 1.2 million frames. The projector will still crunch it all back down to 24 frames per second. Because of these barriers, very few films today are shot in high frame rates. And that is only one part of the equation. Another crucial factor is the subjective aesthetic of the audience. To a certain extent, human taste is shaped by what we are exposed to. Anyone who has ever watched a movie has subconsciously accepted the aesthetic characteristics of 24 frames per second. The slight dreaminess and haze created by the grainy motion blur of low frame rates started as a technical compromise. But today, it has become an indispensable part of what we call the cinematic look. It creates a psychological distance, signaling to the viewer that they are watching a work of art rather than a literal recording of reality. In fact, excessively high frame rates can backfire, making the audience feel like they aren't watching a movie at all, but rather a TV soap opera or a live stage play. This is why, even though streaming platforms now offer 30 and 60 frames per second options for standard video, 24 frames per second remains the core standard for cinema. What was once a technical limitation has transformed into the secret code that gives film its unique storytelling soul.